Why seeking closure is keeping you stuck? You keep telling yourself the same thing. I just need closure. One conversation, one explanation, one moment where everything finally makes sense. Then you'll move on. Then you'll feel okay. Then you'll stop thinking about it. But that moment never comes. And the longer you wait for it, the longer you stay exactly where you are, replaying the same thoughts, revisiting the same memories, trying to complete something that already ended. Because the truth is this: you're not stuck because you don't have closure. You're stuck because you're waiting for it. Closure sounds healthy, but it isn't. Closure sounds like growth. It sounds like maturity. It sounds like the final step of healing. But most of the time, closure is not growth. It's attachment disguised as resolution. Because as long as you believe you still need something from them, you remain connected to them. Mentally, emotionally, energetically, closure keeps the door open just enough to justify staying attached, even when the relationship itself is already gone. You are not seeking answers. You are seeking relief. You tell yourself you want to understand what happened, but understanding is not the real goal. Relief is. You want the discomfort to stop. You want the confusion to settle. You want the emotional tension to release. So your mind creates a condition. If I understand why, I'll feel better. But that condition is false, because understanding does not guarantee relief, and chasing it keeps you engaged in the very thing you're trying to escape. Why your mind keeps going back? Your brain is designed to complete patterns. When something ends cleanly, your mind lets it go. But when something ends abruptly, without explanation, without agreement, without resolution, your brain keeps trying to finish it. It loops, replays, reconstructs, searches for missing pieces, not because it's helping you, but because it doesn't like unfinished stories. And closure promises to finish the story, even if that promise is never fulfilled. You are giving them control over your healing. This is the part most people don't want to admit. When you wait for closure, you're handing someone else control over your healing. You're saying, I cannot move forward until you give me something. An explanation, an apology, an acknowledgement. And until that happens, you stay where you are, and that is not healing. That is dependency. They are the wrong source. The person you want closure from is often the worst person to get it from. They avoid responsibility. They distort reality. They minimize what happened. They deflect. They stay vague. Or they disappear completely. And you keep expecting clarity from someone who has already shown you they don't operate in clarity. That expectation is what keeps the loop alive. Silence is an answer. You just reject it. You treat silence like something incomplete, like a missing piece, like something that still needs to be solved. But silence is not incomplete. It is information. It is a response. It is a position. It tells you everything you need to know about their willingness to engage, to explain, or to take responsibility. You just don't like what it tells you because it doesn't give you relief. You are waiting for a version of them that doesn't exist. You are not just waiting for closure. You are waiting for a different version of the person. A version that explains clearly, takes responsibility, acknowledges your experience, gives you a clean ending. But if that version existed, you wouldn't be in this position. You are expecting clarity from someone who created confusion. That contradiction is what keeps you stuck. The final conversation is a fantasy. You imagine one last conversation where everything is said clearly, where everything is understood, where everything resolves. But that conversation exists in your mind, not in reality. Because the same dynamics that created the confusion will exist in that conversation too. You won't get closure. You'll get more material to analyze, more things to replay, more reasons to stay mentally attached. Replaying is not processing. You think you're working through it. You think you're processing it, but most of the time, you're replaying it, running the same scenes, revisiting the same moments, rewriting the same conversations. That's not progress. That's repetition. Nothing new is being created. You're just keeping the experience active. Why you can't stop thinking about it? You can't stop thinking about it because you haven't allowed it to end. Not externally. Internally. As long as you believe there is still something to understand, your mind will keep searching. As long as you believe there is still something to resolve, your mind will keep returning. Closure keeps the loop open. Understanding does not change the outcome. Even if you understood everything perfectly, it wouldn't change what happened. It wouldn't undo the experience. It wouldn't restore what was lost. It wouldn't fix the dynamic. Understanding explains the past. It does not change it. So waiting for understanding is not moving you forward. It's keeping you connected to something that is already over. You are attached to what it meant. You're not just attached to the person. You're attached to what it meant, what you believed it was, what you thought it would become, what it represented. Closure feels like honoring that meaning, like completing it properly. But the reality is this: the meaning you assign to it does not change how it ended. And holding on to that meaning is what keeps you tied to it. Letting go without closure feels wrong. Letting go without closure feels incomplete. It feels unfinished. It feels like something is missing. Because your brain expects resolution. But not everything resolves cleanly. Some things end without agreement, without clarity, without fairness. And waiting for those things to appear keeps you stuck in the past. You are chasing control. What you call closure is often an attempt to regain control. Control over the narrative. Control over the ending. Control over how you feel. When things end without explanation, you feel out of control. So you go back mentally, trying to reconstruct it, trying to make sense of it, trying to regain that control. But the more you try, the more you stay attached. Internal closure is a decision. Real closure is not something you receive. It is something you create. And it does not come from conversation. It comes from a decision. A clear internal statement: this is over. This is enough. I am not waiting for more. That decision closes the loop. Not their explanation, not their apology, not their acknowledgement. Why this decision is hard? Because it removes the possibility that things could be explained, that things could be fixed, that things could make sense. When you stop seeking closure, you're not just letting go of the person, you are letting go of the possibility. And that is what makes it difficult. You don't need their version of events. You think their explanation will bring clarity, but most of the time, it creates more confusion, more justification, more distortion, more reasons to keep thinking about it. You don't need their version. You experienced it. You lived it. That is enough information. Acceptance without agreement. You do not need to agree with how it ended to accept that it ended. You do not need to understand everything to move on. You do not need closure to let go. Acceptance is not agreement. It is recognition. Recognition that it is over, as it is, not as you wish it would be. Stop negotiating with the past. Every time you go back mentally, you are negotiating with something that cannot change. You're trying to rewrite something that is already fixed. The past does not respond. It does not adjust. It does not update. And the more you engage with it, the more energy it takes from your present. What actually moves you forward? You move forward when you stop asking for more. when you stop searching for explanation, when you stop waiting for clarity, when you stop trying to complete something that is already done. Forward movement is not about understanding. It is about acceptance. The identity shift. Right now, your identity is tied to seeking answers, seeking closure, seeking resolution. That identity keeps your focus on the past. The shift is simple. You become someone who decides, someone who closes things internally, someone who does not wait for others to define when it's over. And once that identity changes, your behavior changes with it. Final thought. You're not stuck because you don't have closure. You are stuck because you keep waiting for it. Waiting for them to explain, waiting for them to acknowledge, waiting for something that may never come. But the moment you stop waiting, the moment you decide it's over without their input, you take your power back. Not because they gave it to you, but because you stopped asking for it. Thank you for watching. This is MindStickz.